game you want off the shelf and rent it for 6 to 7 days. 3 days for newer titles, and this to me was considered fun. I'd sometimes rent the same.
Yeah, I think that was the more fun out of it, was being able to go to a actual physical store and to be able to find you a game to play. I mean, I remember when I was little and I would ask my parents like, "Hey, I want this," and I was so excited holding the case, and I know y'all felt this. So like basically when you're going home, you're just like looking at the back of the case like, oh my god, I can't wait to play, and you're looking at all the information on back of it, just reading and looking at the pictures. I remember that. So
64 game every weekend. Games like Fighting Force 64, Destruction Derby 64, GoldenEye, The Ocarina of Time, all of these games come to mind. I'd bring the game home, play it over the weekend, bring it back the following week, and just repeat the same thing the following
that's I
weekend.
remember being a kid and having so much time.
I was a kid. When I was little, I didn't care about save games or progress or anything like that. I just liked picking up a game and playing it. It sounds monotonous and repetitive, and my god it was, but I love doing that. I even
That's
remember
real.
saving up my allowance money for weeks just to buy the monthly PlayStation magazine. They always had these demo discs that were included at the back of it. I would bring those discs home and play those demos over and over and over again because I love trying new games and getting lost in these worlds. It sounds crazy to me now, but back then, I loved it. Fast forward
See,
to
the
today,
thing with me playing video games now is just an escape to basically to keep myself sane. It's just an escape from reality, from all the stress, from all the daily things that you're responsible for as an adult. When you were a kid, or when you was a kid, you was able to think about this game from the time that you wake up till the time that you went to sleep. The only thing that was interfering with your time was like school. And you had all the time in the world. Kind of depends on your parents, I guess. But my parents, dude, I had so much time to play video games when I was a kid. And let me tell you, it's a whole different feeling.
I feel like it's such a struggle to find a game to get into. You think with things like Steam, with a massive library of games at your fingertips, or services that offer you extremely deep discounted game bundles like Humble Bundle or Fanatical, it would make it easier to find games to enjoy. But even with all these great services, I still find myself struggling to find a game that intrigues me. But why is this? Is it that games today just aren't the same as they were 20 years ago? Can it simply be that I've gotten older and I've grown out of that?
I tend to
exciting
ask myself
phase
those
of gaming?
questions.
Or perhaps it's something else altogether. Well, with this video, I hope to find the root of that problem.
Yeah, games definitely changed.
Let's start
Screw
with the most
that.
obvious of these. It's not me, it's video games that's changed theory. There's no denying that just 25 years
Dude,
ago,
looking at Xbox 360, so I thought about it. So even a little bit before I was born, with games coming out in different consoles, and then all the way up to, I would say, the PS3 and the Xbox 360, I really do not think that the PS3 and the PS4 and the Xbox One was very hyped like the previous consoles. And when the PS5 and the Xbox Series came out, there was a little bit of hype, but it was at the worst time of our lives. Like, it was COVID. And of course, you had numerous scalpers just buying them all up and charging twice the price. I seen PS5 go up to $1,200 and people actually pay for this shit. But I really wasn't that excited. But when I had lay eyes on the PS5, I was like, yeah, I want one. But then I was into PC gaming, so I really didn't care too much for it. But that was the shit when Xbox 360 and the PS3 came out.
much more simple time for video games. There was no season passes,
Oh yeah, I missed
no
that.
pre-order bonuses, no microtransactions. You paid a price and you got a full game. That was it. On top of that, games back then were just made differently. I mean, they were made by people who actually had a passion for making video games and who were fueled with
Okay, we're gonna
creativity.
get back to it,
Today-
but one thing that ruined games that are developed is the one thing that ruins so much is AI. AI can do, I guess, good things, and then on top of it, it's ruined a lot of things, especially with video games, dude. They don't even create their own art anymore, bro. For example, Call of Duty, they don't even create their freaking own art. They have AI generated for them. So it takes away the creativity and the actual heart and soul out of a game.
Today, most AAA games are made by corporations. Corporations that care less about innovation and trying something new, and more about their profits and how much money they can make by doing as little work as possible. That's not to say that there's no passionate people in the industry, but companies like EA and Ubisoft have somewhat created a formula for making a video game. I like to call it the playing it safe formula, a formula that's been proved and tested before that's almost guaranteed to generate revenue, yet lacks no innovation and brings nothing new to the table.
I really
This may
didn't
not
like hockey.
100% be a bad thing, but it definitely goes to show that video games today are made with a lot of other things in mind. That's why you see so many game companies starting to have season passes now. Because developers are trying to make all of their yearly revenue off of one IP instead of multiple.
Bro, dude, the worst thing about it is that there is nothing but season passes and microtransactions. You can't even, there's no such thing a game anymore without all that. And I know for a fact that's ruined a lot of things, is all these microtransactions and stuff like that. And then they know people gonna fall into it and buy it. They know people gonna keep buying microtransactions. To me, it feels like an addition for people, especially kids. Man, I see kids, or I seen parents, kids just get all these microtransactions from Fortnite. Like, bro, I guess it's like an addiction or something. I don't know.
Once they catch success with a good one, they just milk it for as long as they possibly can, and that's really part of the problem. On top of that, let's not forget that early access is also a thing. Could you imagine if 20 years ago someone told you that for a price you could play an incomplete game? People would laugh you out of the room. Sure, there are plenty of great early access games out there on the market, but how many early access titles exist that have just been sitting in limbo for years after they've already collected money from the customer? So have video game companies changed for the worse over the years? In some ways, they have. You could definitely say that video game companies, for the most part, have shifted their focus from creating great iconic games to focusing more on increasing revenue streams, but it's also important to consider the evolution of video games as a whole as well. When video games first appeared on the scene, they were simple and primitive by today's standards. They were played on rudimentary devices like the Atari 2600 or the Commodore 64, and they often involved simple gameplay mechanics like shooting at enemies or avoiding obstacles.
So the thing with
These games
games
were-
now is that, yeah, back then they were a lot more simple. But now when you play any kind of game, AAA or whatever game you decide to play, it feels like more of a chore because you got so much to do in that game. I remember like some games I've played before, it felt more like a task than actually having decent fun on the game or having a good time or whatever. But now it's just doing tasks, bro. You're doing another chore. You're adding a chore to your list. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
were fun in their own way, but they were also limited by the technology of the time. As the years went by, technology advanced and video games became more complex, more sophisticated. With the advent of 3D graphics and more powerful hardware, developers were able to create games that were more immersive and realistic. But with this complexity came a lot of challenges for developers. They had to balance the desire to push the boundaries of what was possible with the need to keep the gameplay accessible but yet also enjoyable. With all these new innovations and new technologies also came new problems. Games that were made just 25 years ago didn't have the same complexity of the games that we have today. Today, games are held to a much higher standard than they used to. We no longer judge a game based off of just gameplay or how fun it is anymore. We scrutinize games for their graphics, their sound design, their storyline and writing, their acting, even how glitchy or buggy the game is. Couple all of this with the fact that game companies have tight budgets and holiday deadlines to maximize sales, and it's no surprise that we have unfinished, buggy day one releases.
Run. Woo!
Before. This
But perhaps it is us that are changing and not our games.
See, bro, I'm
As we
not
get
gonna
older-
blame myself or blame anybody. What the main problem is I believe it's greed. Honestly, if you don't think it's greed, then that's your opinion, but I think it's greed. I think that's what ruined a lot of things in life, not just video games. I think greed has gotten so much worse over the years, and it just ruined a lot more life experiences. So that's what I think.
Our interests change. We have more responsibilities, more commitments. As a kid, my biggest problem was trying to finish my homework, and my biggest commitment was showing up for that raid in World of
Yeah,
Warcraft
like I
after
said.
school. Today, I hardly have the time to enjoy the things I loved doing every single day as a kid. These days, when I finally find the time to sit down and play a game, I almost feel overwhelmed. A huge open world 80 plus hour game seems almost like a burden, a daunting task that's scary to even start. Do I find the motivation to begin this endeavor? Or do I simply just jump into a quick online game with my friends? Because
See, that's the
after
thing
all,
with me being an adult with all these responsibilities that I have. It seems like I get overwhelmed. I will see a long game that it has a lot of side quests or a lot of stuff to do, and then I'm just like, yeah, I play for maybe 2 hours max, and then I end up deleting the game again. So that's when I always find myself playing something quick, like a quick game of like Call of Duty or something. I don't know, bro. I just feel like I just don't game that much. So, I mean, I'll hop on a new game for an hour or two and then I delete it. And honestly, I would never play it again.
don't know the next time we're all going to be free to play together. And as I get older, I find myself slipping further and further down that path. The kid in me wants to play long, story-rich RPG adventure games, but the adult in me is telling me, no. I just don't feel like doing that right now. I only have an hour of free time, so I might
Yep.
as well make it something quick. I'm sure we've all been guilty of this before, at least
Oh,
one
yeah,
time
plenty
or
times.
another, but sometimes I find myself browsing Steam, adding games to my list of games to play, more than actually playing the games
I can
that are
relate
on
to
my
that.
list. I'm even guilty of this with Netflix. I'll browse Netflix's catalog more than watching anything on the platform. So it comes down to this. Do I have enough time to play the games I want to play? Am I getting older and my interests in games are changing? Are video games getting worse? Are video games getting better? Honestly, there's a lot of questions here, but what it boils down to is this. I think everything can be true at once. Am I getting old? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean I can't still enjoy new video games when they come out. Video games will always have a special place in my heart. Nostalgia aside, video games give me a source of entertainment, and they distracted me from times of depression in my mundane life. Yes, video games today face new problems that didn't exist 20 years ago. And yes, there does seem to be a general sense of laziness and stagnation from the video game developers today. But on the other hand, you could also argue that video games and the video game industry as a whole is better than it ever has been. When I think about where we first started to where we are now, it truly is a milestone, despite the negatives, and I can't help but think about the future of gaming and where it possibly can go next. Thanks for watching, guys.
So I
the
guess that
video.
was
I
it.
hope you
But
guys-
my opinion is, no matter how old you get, I always believe that games should be some kind of hobby. If that's your hobby, that should clearly be something that you want to do. I don't believe that video games are going anywhere. I still love video games. I still love playing them. And I mean, it's just certain games, man. It's just certain companies that make these games, and it's terrible, dude. It's mainly greed, and it's these microtransactions that are killing the gaming, and they need to quit adding so much task and so many chores to the game to where it feels more like a job or some kind of side job than having fun. Honestly, I don't know how or what the plan could be to make games better, but I'm always still gonna be a gamer. So I mean, it's what it is, and it'll always have a heart. Always have a place in my heart too. So, but I'm out of here, dude.